Hey everyone, it's Justine, and we're celebrating the summer solstice inks at Suzy Stamps this month because not only are these inks super fabulous that were released not too long ago, but also we have the re-inkers that are coming out. So we are releasing 6 of the re-inkers for this 6-pack of inks at the moment. Rum Runner, Wild Watermelon, Timeless Turquoise, Totally Turtle, Tropical Teal, and Bumblebee Breeze. They have such fun names. So I wanted to show 7 ways to use re-inkers. And the first run is inking ink pads, of course. This is what these are actually made for. And what's really great is if you get a re-inker for your ink pads, these are mini ink pads. So they will last you quite a while, but after a while they may start to get a little bit dry. So what you need to do is just squeeze on a couple of drops of the re-inker, and it's going to re-ink your ink like new. So that's the main reason for having re-inkers, but there's so many other fun things you can do. For example, doing your own DIY ink pad. There are DIY ink pads out there which you can use, or you can just use baby wipes. So I stacked about 3 baby wipes folded in half on top of each other, and I'm just adding some of the re-inker. I'm not adding a lot because the moisture of the baby wipe will actually take your ink into a lot more than you think it will. So I'm adding some Wild Watermelon, some Bumblebee Breeze, and some Tropical Teal to my baby wipe here, and then I'm just creating a DIY ink pad. This can also last you more than one use. All you need to do is store it in a Ziploc bag to keep it moist. So I'm going to take a Suzy stamp here, and I'm going to stamp it into my DIY ink pad. I'm just going to move this off to the side and stamp it onto my card, and you'll see the awesome effect that it brings out. It really gets you a whole different level of stamping when you're stamping with different color inks, or you can even create an ombre effect. Number 3 are ink splatters. Now, ink splatters are easy to create. And what I've done is I've actually taken this palette here. This is from Ranger, and I've squeezed a couple of my re-inkers in here, about 2 or 3 drops per color, and I can have this in my desk now for multiple use. I've picked it up using my paintbrush, and I'm just hitting the paintbrush so that little splatters of ink come out. Now, one thing you want to do is use a cheap paintbrush here because it will stain your brush, so you don't want to use your really fancy ones. And you can create bigger or better splotches, and they will lighten up as well as they sit and dry. Number 4 is texture paste. Now, texture paste is one of my favorite things to work with to add dimension to my cards. And I'm going to put a little bit of white glossy texture paste onto my craft mat here. And I'm going to squeeze a couple of drops of re-inker into my texture paste. Now, you can see I've used very little. Very little goes a long way. And I'm just going to mix this up using my palette knife. After it's mixed really well, you can either secure a stencil with your hand or with some tape and just go over the texture paste with a palette knife over top of the stencil and create some really great effects. Now, this is going to save you a lot of money because if you think you have to invest in a bunch of colors of texture paste, you can see that you don't. You can just use your re-inkers. Number 5 is misting. Now, there are 2 ways I'm going to show you to mist here, and I am using a mini mister from Ranger. You can use any sort of spray bottle, and I have water in here already. And I'm just going to put about 2 drops of the re-inker. 2 to 3 drops will be just fine. You can also add a little bit of white perfect pearls if you'd like, if you want to give it a very shimmery look. Now I'm just going to shake this up really well, and I'm going to spray it onto my card. The other thing you can do with misting that's really fun is just laying a stencil on top of your card. So I'm going to grab some watercolor paper this time so it doesn't warp too badly. I'm going to spray my mist here onto my card, and then all you need to do is let it sit for a couple of minutes. If you remove the ink pad, and then I actually dried it off screen so you can see what it looks like as a final project, and that's really, really pretty. And you can see the shimmer in there as well because I added some of the perfect pearls. Number 6 is watercolor. Now, I took a piece of watercolor paper and I'm just adding a lot of water onto my card into a background sort of look, and then I'm going to add some re-inker onto my craft mat. And I'm just going to add a drop or 2 here onto the mat, and then I'm going to use this to watercolor. Now, I didn't have enough water on my page at the top there, so you see I did get a little bit of a splotch, but I just wanted to show you off screen that everybody makes mistakes as well, and so I left it as is and didn't refilm this. So that just shows you, you can see the bottom how well that worked, but the top didn't have enough water, so it did get a little bit too concentrated. But you can watercolor. And the last one is the shaving cream technique. This is probably the most fun. I'm grabbing some foam shaving cream. This probably won't work with gel shaving cream, I don't think. And I'm just adding some shaving cream onto my craft mat, and I am spreading it out with my hand. And I am going to add some of the drops of a re-inker to the shaving cream. So I'm adding some wild watermelon, some bumblebee breeze, and then I decided to add some timeless turquoise. And I'm not exactly sure how these might turn out to be a really bad color combination, but you can experiment and create a lot of really. You're just going to take either a toothpick or something like a pencil and just go in and out of the inks up and down, and then you can also go from side to side and just mix up those colors as best as you can. You're just going to put your card and lightly pat down onto the surface, and don't be afraid, your card will dry and it will not look too bad. And then you're going to pick it up and you can see it has a lot of shaving cream on it. So you're just going to grab a palette knife or a butter knife or whatever you have at home and just scrape off the excess here and just let it dry, or use your heat gun to let it dry. And you can see the really fun background it created. That's the end of today's video today. If you want to subscribe to the Suzy Stamps channel, just hit the subscribe button at the bottom. On the moving video, you can check out our last video featuring the Stamp of the Month program. And I thank you very much for watching.